Start with our COVID-19 updates this morning as Barbados has reached another grim milestone. The COVID-19 death toll has risen to 300. An 80-year-old woman died yesterday at the Harrison Point isolation facility. She was the latest casualty. She was vaccinated. Meanwhile, a total of 271 people, that's 121 males and 151 females, tested positive for COVID-19 on Sunday, and that's from 1,331 tests conducted by the Barbados Santos Public Health Laboratory. The cases comprised 62 youngsters under the age of 18. There were 148 people in isolation facilities, while 5,951 people were in home isolation. As at February the 13th, the virus had claimed 299 lives, and as we previously said, to add to that one, the 80-year-old woman who died yesterday. Under the National Vaccination Program for COVID-19, the total number of people with at least one dose is 159,507, while 148,406 people are fully vaccinated. Staying with COVID-19, Ontario's Premier has announced that Canada's most populous province will lift its COVID-19 proof of vaccination requirements in 2 weeks' time, not because of the protests that have blocked the border and paralyzed Ottawa, but because it is safe to do so.
Traffic has resumed on a major crossing in the city of Windsor after a police raid ended a 6-day blockade by truckers. The so-called Freedom Convoy began as a protest against a mandate requiring truckers to be vaccinated. Officers in Alberta province have arrested and seized guns from 11 protesters at a separate crossing, accusing them of planning to attack police if their blockade was removed. Meanwhile, the Premier of Ontario province says vaccination requirements will be lifted in 2 weeks, but the decision is not related to the protests.
Today's announcement is not because of what's happening in Ottawa or Windsor, but despite it. On Friday morning, I made the difficult decision to declare a state of emergency in Ontario. The police now have every single tool they need. They have every resource available to them. And we've made progress since speaking to you last time. I want to thank our police forces for their efforts over the weekend. The blockade at our border in Windsor has now come to an end.
Meanwhile, Canada's Prime Minister has invoked the Emergencies Act there to deal with the truckers' protest.
The scope of these measures will be time-limited, geographically targeted, as well as reasonable and proportionate to the threats they are meant to address. The Emergencies Act will be used to strengthen and support law enforcement agencies at all levels across the country. This is about keeping Canadians safe, protecting people's jobs, and restoring confidence in our institutions. Here's how the measures we're taking today will help get the situation under control. The police will be given more tools to restore order in places where public assemblies can constitute illegal and dangerous activities, such as blockades and occupations as seen in Ottawa, the Ambassador Bridge, and elsewhere. These tools include strengthening their ability to impose fines or imprisonment. The government will designate, secure, and protect places and infrastructure that are critical to our economy and people's jobs, including border crossings and airports. We cannot and will not allow illegal and dangerous activities to continue.
Coming up next on the Morning Report, you'll get to meet the new president of the Barbados Film and Video Association. You'll hear about his plans to create a more vibrant and creative film industry here in Barbados. Up next. Barbados and Guyana are continuing bilateral talks. This as leaders seek to deepen cooperation on several levels, including food and nutrition security. The Prime Minister, Mia Moore-Motley, has led a 14-member delegation to the South American territory. Speaking on Guyana's NCN, Ms. Motley said she's looking forward to the new areas of partnership.
For us, you use the word vast. Vast is probably still an understatement when it is reference to other small states in the Caribbean, because I don't think that our people in the rest of the Caribbean region understand and appreciate the vastness of this great nation. And it is for that reason, therefore, that I welcome the opportunity over the next few days to participate in meetings as well as in visits to see where the actual projects can be.
And Guyana's President, Dr. Irfan Ali, has pledged his government's commitment to working with Barbados.
I want to let you know that here in Guyana, led by myself as President, the Cabinet, and the people of this country, we admire greatly your leadership. We believe strongly in your commitment to regional integration, and we will work with you every single day in our journey ahead together to ensure that the goals that we are setting can be realized and the people of this region can be uplifted.
Barbados' real estate market, and in particular the high-end segment, is recovering well ahead of predictions. In fact, Terra Caribbean is reporting its highest sales metrics in the company's history. Sharika Griffith has more.
In 2020, real estate transactions declined by 20%, the largest single decline in 30 years. Fast forward to 2022, where indicators are pointing to a record winter season in the high-end rental market.
If you were trying to book a flagship villa on the west coast of Barbados now in season, Tanya Wallace, who runs our Blue Sky business, would tell you will probably struggle. On the long-term rental side, as it says in 2019, as a result of the welcome stamp effect, our long-term rental business has doubled.
Chief Operating Officer of Terra Caribbean, Hayden Hutton, made the disclosure as the company launched TerraRed.com, the digital evolution of the company's popular Red Book, which provides data and analysis on the local and regional real estate markets.
The idea of producing a sort of a landmark or flagship piece of content just once a year is not enough. It's yesterday's way of doing business and the market demands more. So we realized that we would have to evolve this process of producing content ultimately into something that was searchable, so that we were not serving up what we thought you wanted, but rather you could serve up what you demanded and whatever you were looking for.
With several private sector projects set to come on stream this year, leader of the Terra Group, Senator Andrew Malalu, believes the local real estate market is poised for substantial growth over the next 2 years. But he's cautioned about what he calls friction, or things that slow down processes.
Friction comes in transactions when they take a long time to close because of whatever the legal process might be and how we can improve that. Or it comes from delays in the banking process.
He's also acknowledged the risk to market growth, including the emergence of new COVID-19 variants and crime.
We're all worried about that when we see, rising violence or people who are perhaps not as as well behaved as we might like. So those things worry us. But the main risk at this point in time, obviously, would be external factors to us: global recession, another variant that would affect us in the pandemic.
As people continue to work remotely, it's expected to have a negative impact on the commercial office market in the long term. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Let's now meet the new president of the Barbados Film and Video Association. He's saying under his leadership, the association will be assisting with government's push for a more vibrant and creative sector. Rivelino Simmons, who was elected to the top post last weekend, says links with similar organizations regionally and partnerships with other stakeholders are included in his action plan, which is aimed at achieving the ultimate goal of increased local content on television. He joins us live now on the Morning Report to discuss his plans for the association. Rivelino, good to have you on the Morning Report.
Good morning. Good morning.
Talk to us about this action plan and some of the components of it. How will it generate what you see as what is needed to bring more content to TV?
Well, Shane, this has been, I was president before many years ago. I decided, this is a good time because the world has changed, distribution has changed. People are accepting content from wherever. You don't have to go through studios or large outlets. And the world is opening up. I thought this is a good time for us to get together, start planning and looking at moving our content to the world. I've been lucky that pretty much I hardly work locally now, that all of my content moves beyond, Barbados, into the Caribbean, into UK, US, Canada, and even Africa. So I think it's time that we make this push. And the thing with video, film and video encompasses all aspects of the creative sector. You have fashion, you have music. Once they're all included within a project, you're pretty much marketing yourself to the world, and you can move products anywhere and everywhere.
You have that luxury of working throughout the Caribbean and really throughout the world because of the level and the quality of your work. But talk about how can we get some more of those who want to be involved in the local film industry to make that push, or even create a more vibrant sector here in Barbados, because there is that demand to see local content, but it's so expensive and in some cases very, very difficult to produce.
Well, that's the key to it. Is what happened many years ago. I did a show called Rumbo, and Rumbo snowballed into a reality show, and then me doing program after program. What we have to do, I think everyone thinks online is the key to film and video industry. It's not right now. It's not. There's limited ways you can make revenue online. However, see, partnerships with CBC, that's key, because that's where you develop your skill. That's where you develop your first TV program. That's where I developed mine, is putting content on Channel 8. And you will be surprised. If you produce good local content, you will get sponsors. Show after show, from game shows to Rumbo to whatever. Right now, Caribbean Weekend Review is all content. We've moved to CBC, and it helped us to grow. We have to have a strong local industry, or we have no industry. We cannot move CBC out of the equation. We have to partner with CBC. We have to be more involved with CBC. The thing is, Barbados and Film and Video Association, there are many people within the association. The only thing they do is work film and video. Unfortunately, we don't have a partnership with CBC, or we're not in that decision making by those who make decisions at CBC. And I think that's key for any industry, where you have the filmmakers, the local filmmakers on the ground, having those conversations. How can we make this better? And we having stakeholder meetings and bringing it all together.
As far as the BFVA is concerned, what do you know about any plans by government? Are you working with government directly as well? It would be lovely that we get more of that content on CBC. But what do you know about government's plans for the industry? Have you been in discussions with the Mia Motley-led administration on that matter?
I've had some conversations about content and taking content to the world. It hasn't gone, very far. We've just now started talking about content and content to the world. However, I've never been one to depend on government to move forward or progression. I always have this belief that any government move a bit too slow for me, and this business is about fast decision making. Yeah, it'd be great if government comes aboard and we do things like a film fund, where there's a revolving film fund that you could tap into, then to get money out to make your product and then move it to market, or even have a fund there to help with marketing. But I believe we have to be stronger together and develop strong products and help each other to lift up the next person and bring them along. Because the thing is, people always want new content. just because I produced something last week, it doesn't mean it stopped. There's always a demand for content. Content is king, and we have to understand that. So the key to it for me is bringing the community closer together. Start doing every month workshops. I know international distributors who will come in and give workshops. People who film festivals that will come and tell us how to approach a film festival and which one is right for you. I'm thinking about different workshops that we can do to get ourselves stronger.
So what are the initial next steps that the association will be rolling out to really get things going in the industry?
We're gonna pretty much start with workshops from next month, pretty much. We're gonna start. I have a distributor in the USA. He's actually first generation Bajan, and he was one of the heads of the African channel when they launched it globally. He had his own distribution company distributing films, and he's interested in coming and give us a talk about how to prepare your programs. He's also involved in the Cannes Film Festival, where he's been working with Africa to come together. Now he wants to bring the Caribbean into that. There's initiatives like that we're working on to help us out there, but we have to find the right content to move to the next level. I've been lucky. I'm in Africa now. I produced a show there last month. I spent a whole month working with the African Nations Cup, and we're working on some other stuff. I'm in the middle of setting up a music station in Africa, but that is all avenues for our industry to get across there, whether it's music videos, whether it's producing music shows, or whatever else.
The linkages are key, and we really are wishing you all the best, because for all of us, we want to see that demand growing for local content, not only here in Barbados, but in the region and internationally as well. Thank you so much for your time, Revelino. You stay safe until the next time we talk.
All right, cool, thanks.
A good chat there with Revelino Simmons. He is the new president of the Barbados Film and Video Association. Let's go over now to Pearson to hear what he has planned for you on Tuesday in the aftermath of Valentine's Day right here on Mornin Barbados. Pearson?
Thank you, Shane. Well, continuing on that conversation you just had with Rivelino, we'll be going into the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts. How do you now take that talent, formalize it through education, and then reproduce it to the rest of the world? We'll delve further into the scale of learning that you can get in that faculty. Also today, we're taking with our pediatrician a look at some of the injuries during sports and play. And I know a number of you parents will want to huddle your children to your chest and keep them all safe, but sometimes sprains and injuries do occur. What do we do as caregivers? And what do you do? What should you pay attention to when you're choosing or buying a new property within a new subdivision? We'll talk to you about that and a whole lot more straight ahead at 6:30 when you join me for Morning Barbados. It's back to you, Shane.
Thank you so much, Pearson. We'll take a break here and be back with more news on the Morning Report. Let's go to Honduras now, a country with one of the highest murder rates in the world. Families are trying to prevent their children from being recruited by criminal gangs, but corruption is making their efforts very, very difficult.
At a late-night crime scene in Tegucigalpa, a shootout raged between gang members and police in the Villanueva neighborhood, leaving at least 7 dead.
There's insecurity for everyone. We can't live here any longer, but we've no place else to go because other places are dangerous too. We're in dire need and I don't know what to do. Stay here or leave the country.
Many here say blood-soaked streets littered with bullet casings have become an all too common sight. Authorities tell us that scenes of brutal violence like this one in the Honduran capital are just the tip of the iceberg in a far more complex security situation that affects nearly every corner of the country. In Honduras's poorest neighborhoods, gangs, particularly MS-13 and the 18th Street Gang, are notorious for crimes like extortion and for the recruitment of young children. Those who resist often pay with their lives. This young mother, who has asked us to hide her identity, says she was tortured by gang members and forced to flee her home after refusing to pay extortion money.
We've faced humiliation. We've lost our house because of the gangs. My children cry and say to me, "Mum, it would be good for us to go someplace else where they won't want to kill us." Imagine a 7-year-old boy saying that to you.
A lack of confidence in Honduran authorities means victims of violence seldom report crimes to police. And security experts say collusion between criminal groups and government officials permeates across all levels of society.
Unfortunately, we see that different politicians and government leaders have been linked to drug trafficking. We see that there are high rates of impunity, corruption, and weakness in the rule of law.
Eber Ordóñez, a deputy police commissioner, tells Al Jazeera that despite modest advances in reducing the national homicide rate, reining in the violence often feels like a losing battle.
In comparison to previous years, the incidence of crime has actually decreased, but perhaps in some communities it's risen due to factors like local culture or in communities where gangs exist in great numbers.
Honduras has a rate of 38 homicides per 100,000 residents, making it one of the most dangerous countries in Latin America. International observers predict that thousands of Hondurans will be displaced from their homes in 2022, a challenge that cannot be addressed without a drastic reduction in the violence plaguing the country.
Now, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz visited Ukraine yesterday, part of a flurry of Western diplomacy aimed at heading off a feared Russian invasion that some warn could be just days away. The Chancellor plans to continue on to Moscow, where he will try to persuade the Russian President Vladimir Putin to stand down. Meanwhile, communities living on the front line in the Ukraine are growing increasingly concerned. We have a report.
A couple of 100 meters down that hill is Russia. Now, this area has remained quiet over the last 8 years of this conflict. There's been no shelling, there's been no fighting, there's been no destruction of people's homes and businesses. But that does not mean that the lives of people in this village has not been deeply affected by the conflict. They used to be able to go and visit friends and family in Russia freely. They used to be able to go to the cemetery, which is in Russia. They used to be able to trade and go shopping. But 3 years ago, that all changed. In 2019, rolls of barbed wire were laid along the border. It took almost 30 years after the collapse of the Soviet Union and a war before a boundary between the two states appeared. Elena Mamyatova runs the village shop. She describes life before the war as a golden time.
We have relatives living there. Right behind the stream there is a village, and their children used to come to school here. We visited each other as friends. We married each other, spent our holidays together. And now, everything is closed.
Outside the half-empty school is the statue of a historian who wrote about the importance of unity among Cossacks who populated this region for centuries. The village is quiet. Antonia Mezentseva sits in the sun with her friends.
My parents are buried in the cemetery and I can't visit their graves anymore. Our friends on the other side can't come here to visit. We miss them. Everyone is full of regret and we know they think the same. We're far away from politics, but now our freedoms and joys are gone.
In sports now, Barbados Pride will take on Jamaica Scorpions in round 2 of the Cricket West Indies 4-day regional championship starting this morning at Kensington Oval. The Pride are coming off a 4-wicket win over the Leeward Island Hurricanes in the first series, while Scorpions will be looking to rebound from a 3-wicket defeat to the Trinidad and Tobago Red Force. Jonathan Carter, with 71 not out, was the hero for the Pride as they chased down 195 for victory on the final day. He says they will not be taking the Scorpions lightly.
Different wicket, as we can see. Hopefully it plays a bit better than the first pitch. But yeah, the pitch gave a little assistance for both batting and bowling, so hopefully it could carry on in this next game. Different teams, you know, they come with different approach, so we play each day as it comes. And you know, cricket is a game of great uncertainty, so we take each day as it comes.
Live coverage will be on Radio 94.7, the best 24/7 from 10 this morning. The other matches will be in Trinidad and Tobago. Guyana will take on the Leeward Island Hurricanes at Queen's Park Oval, while Trinidad and Tobago Red Force will battle the Windward Island Volcanoes at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy. Let's take a look at weather now. The present temperature, around 24.5 degrees Celsius, is fair on the outside. The relative humidity stands at 70%. The barometric pressure is 1013 millibars this morning, and those winds are coming out of the east at 28 kilometers per hour. There will be a low tide at 5 minutes to 9 this morning. The high tide will be at 11 minutes after 3 in the afternoon. Those seas are moderate to rough in open water. Swells are reaching 3 meters and increasing. A small craft advisory is in effect for above normal sea swells. We'll have a mix of sunshine and clouds in Barbados today with a few brief isolated light showers. And tonight the skies will be partly cloudy with the occasional brief scattered light shower. And here is a quick look at the international weather forecast. That's it for this edition of the CBC Morning Report. I'm Shane Seeley. I'll see you at 12 with CBC Newsday, but before that at 7 with your headline news. Up next are Pearson Bowen with Mornin Barbados.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning, Barbados, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, 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 morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to today, Tuesday, the 15th of February, 2022. You've survived yesterday. I think you took advantage, didn't you, of the fact that there was no curfew to be out till thy kingdom come, and now you're struggling to wake up. Your fault. Well, wonderful having you company indeed, right here on the island and anywhere else across the world as well. Watching us on our YouTube channel and our Facebook streams. Thank you for waking up with us morning after morning. Thy mercies we see. And so this morning, today, we'll continue our exercises with our two guys, Chad Forbes and Mr. Caliphate 246 Thornwood. We'll look at some wonderful exercises one can do with the children and literally with the entire family, perhaps with friends. So they'll share with us some very fun ways of keeping fit. Also, if you're in the market for real estate and you're perhaps looking at some new developments which are popping up all over the place into little subdivisions, what are some of the things that you need to pay attention to? Like how to select a plot, like knowing the developer and knowing about the developer's work, a whole host of things. Agent Sharita will join us in our segment to look at that. Also, when the children have those sprains and strains and everything else, what do you do? Our pediatrician, Dr. Gillian Birchwood, will join us as we take a look at some of those injuries during sports and play that our children from time to time will encounter. Also, what's going on GOn Awards. The voting process has been completed, and so they'll talk to us this morning about what's next as we get ready to really salute all of the excellence of our peoples right here on the island who are Barbadians creating great work. But let's get started today in the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts, because that's where they probably all started anyway, in a formal course of study. Joining us this morning to talk a little bit more about what they're doing this week is Marcia Burrows, who is the Deputy Dean of the Faculty, and with her is Rada Gay as candidate in Cultural Studies and also filmmaker. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. Yours, Marcia, has to be one of the most fun faculties to be in. Honestly, you get to do what you love to do and be accredited for it.
I think, yes, actually, it's finally a dream come true. I mean, in our generation, thinking of a university with a faculty of culture is incredible.
Yes.
Because culture was always seen as a sideline, I do anything else but, oh, there you're in school not doing well in maths, do drama or do theater or whatever. But it shows you how society has changed, that there are individuals such as Miss Gay who can find a living. This is unbelievable. Shout out to all those persons who've been struggling in the areas for so long. Tony Thompson, Winston Farrell, Peter Allen, past now Wendell Smith. We would never have envisioned that the university would see our work in the arts, in music, dance, song, theater, and discussing culture as something worth of study at the university, but it is, and we are here. We are here.
You know, oftentimes we see you on stage or we hear you in a production and we think, you're just kidding around. You're just doing you naturally. But there is a rudiment to the whole thing. It is not by happenstance that you got to where you are. And this is where the course of study is, because the more we know of the nuances of our culture, the better we are, I think, at not just understanding it, but to be able to reproduce it. So let's look at some of the courses that are offered within the faculty so that we get it and we are equally excited as you have been all these years, so that we want to join the faculty.
Well, please come everyone, come. This week is a great week. If you are curious about what we are or what we look like, go do we have a 3D 360 virtual tour online. Go to it. It's a fabulous thing. If it was not COVID, we were planning to actually do this entire broadcast from the faculty, but COVID culture, not possible. Could you imagine we would have come in? I mean, Amanda Cumberbatch, her idea, credit given to us, coming into you from the theater, or coming in from the veranda looking over the sea, or coming in from the George Lamin Pedagogical Center, or coming in from the Worrell Ball Theater, or Film Area, or Tucson. So this week, you can go online, 360, take a virtual tour. We've done a tour, I believe it's Ron Farley and Andrew Millington. You can also experience a dance session online, and tomorrow there's an entire discussion of the dance session. I believe that's at 6:30. Today now, the Taster Classroom today. Yesterday it was music, and I'm told Dr. Stefan Walcott had sessions of Japanese dance.
Wow.
If you logged into Japanese music yesterday, if you log in today, you can join a dance class. There's a dance class. There it is, Taster's Room in class, in dance. Go online, click. I hope you can see it clearly. It might be a little shadowy where you are, but it's on our website. You can go and see bit.ly, I believe. And then at 4 o'clock, there's myself with Dr. Philip Ford, the master in stick fighting. And stick fighting sometimes is seen as the culture of the working class, and really not as equal as opera or whatever. But what we have, there are so many secrets, we who are of African descent right throughout the region, that this stick, in some countries you have to soak the stick. I don't know if you know that person, and not touch it for 3 weeks. I mean, don't touch it for 3 weeks. And then there are certain sticks that are to be used, and you might know that there was a practice before. Older generations tell me, if a gentleman or a man, as we would say, came into your village with a stick across his shoulders like that, everyone backed away. It's like a guy coming with a gun, because you don't challenge him. So you'll be learning about that. So it's 2 p.m. dance teaser, 4 p.m., stick fighting African Barbadian rituals with myself and Dr. Philip Ford. And 6 p.m., the students now have been tackling clean issues. And I would love to pass on to my colleague and graduate student, Miss Rita Gay, filmmaker, and amazingly has helped us right through in preparing this for the week.
So over to you. You've been invoked, Rita. So talk to us a little bit about your role and what we can expect this evening.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Burrows, for such supportive words. So this evening, what you can expect is to listen in on discussions from students in the faculty, both undergrad and graduate students. The wonderful thing about UWI is that it's a global institute. So we have Kojo Denamio from Ghana. We have Adrian Green right here from Barbados. We have Relicia Andrews from St. Vincent, who identifies as a Garifuna indigenous person, and all of them are coming together to speak about colonial legacies in education, all moderated by Dr. Yvonne Weeks. And it will be a great discussion followed by many others this week under the subtitle of Negotiating Bodies and Being in the New Republic. How are we negotiating our new identities, our new way of living our everyday in this new narrative that Barbados is beginning to create for itself.
I'm watching your face and I can see a smile on this. You clearly love, the whole space in which you're learning. So talk to me so that anyone that's watching today who's trying to make up their minds to be a part of the faculty, what is it about it that triggered your interest and why they should really register to be a part of the faculty?
Well, I'm a filmmaker, and so joining the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts to further study just seemed natural to me. I'm interested in researching Caribbean culture, Caribbean cinema, so why not study it within the Caribbean? The faculty produces such a great community of persons where we can all come together and bounce ideas off of each other. It's also full of great mentors. Dr. Burrows actually is my supervisor, and together with her and Andrew Millington, I find the proper guidance in where I want my research to go. So the faculty really embodies the heart of culture in Barbados. And if you are looking for a way to improve your craft, to learn more about yourself and our neighbors in the Caribbean, then this is the place to be.
What have you learned more about yourself? Because oftentimes we are taught what other people have said and we form our own perceptions. But then when we get into study, we realize, oh no, my history is much richer than perhaps was told to me. What have you learned?
Of course, I've learned so much. Like before, I figured culture, that's when we go and stand up for the November parade and probably see a land ship or two somewhere. But it's learning more about my history, where I've come from, and culture is that too. Is learning that it is both the everyday and the complex subjects of politics and identity and space. And so it really made me rethink my position as a citizen in Barbados, my position as an artist, and it's actually enriched my work. It enabled me to write stories from a historical fictional point of view. So Enid by the NCF, I wrote that. I also wrote the Josiah Carolina Barbados Connection story.
Yes.
And so knowing your history then helps your art find a greater purpose, and that's what it's done for me.
Marcia, when we think about it, it sounds as if it's the faculty that every living human being should be a part of, because it helps us, it orders our steps, so to speak.
It's about identity and about challenging identities and challenging the identities many of us have been across the region. Having Kojo from Ghana in the class, I taught him in a course last year where he was in Ghana. He's now back here. But it's interesting how there was an overlap between what the students were saying in Barbados and within the Eastern Caribbean. There is a student in the faculty who zooms in from Virginia and what she's saying in Virginia and what he's saying. So this is the moment of change and of upheaval and of looking at what have we inherited and where do we go from here? I think the Black Lives Movement, for example, has captured the globe because we're at this moment of change, whether it is thousands of blackbirds falling out of the sky in Mexico and no one knows why, or whether it is understanding what narratives do we want to influence us now. Pearson, one thing I must say, there's a poem by Camel Brathwaite, I know you know it, Negus,
Yes.
it is not. I spoke with his widow and she gave us permission to perform it. And that poem will be featured at some point in time in the faculty this week. And it is interesting to hear that Camel, who wrote the poem, I believe in the late 60s, early 70s, that when we speak to colonial legacies, look what he's saying, it is not enough to be free of the red, white, and blue of the dragon. That we are now in a stage of the Republic, just a couple of weeks old. Okay, 2 months, but it really was only yesterday.
Yes.
Who are we becoming? It isn't who we are. Identity is about who are we becoming? What narratives are we choosing as we shape our becoming? Whether gendered, whether with historical, whether you're looking at various shapes of your nation. And yes, the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts offers you the opportunity to join the discourse of what are our challenges in the 21st century culturally. How do we position ourselves?
Listen, we need to taste and see for ourselves. Folks, we need to taste today. So today from 2 in the afternoon, there's going to be a taster on dance. Then this afternoon at 4, there's going to be that taster with Dr. Marcia Burrows, and they're looking at festivals and rituals and a whole host of things. And then at 6 o'clock, the students will get a chance to speak. So this is where Rada and her crew will come through. They'll engage with you. And not only are you learning as you go, but you get a taste of what is offered in the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts. And then you sign up for a course and you take it and you are richer for it as well.
Yes, and Pearson, may I add, tomorrow afternoon, 5 o'clock, open session, information session. The heads of department will be there speaking to the various programs in the faculty. And I see an image you're showing, Toussaint Louverture, during CariFesta 2017 held in there. That was a moment when the Haitian drummers came and drummed in front of that image, quite remember. We're taking the virtual tour. Welcome, folks. It's COVID and we're locked up. Those of us who did get out last night for Valentine's, come and take a tour of our faculty. Beautiful views, wonderful spaces to be, and hopefully when we finally, because we are still under COVID protocols, when we finally get back to our face-to-face class situations, then we can experience it, because I hear the artists, the dancers, the theater persons saying it's difficult to create moments of theater and dance. You're doing your best via Zoom, but really it's that human contact for the dance.
That's how education transforms. So, folks, this afternoon from 2 right through till after 6 this evening, that's where we will be in that one space. It can be watched on the Facebook page, which is FCCPA UWI Cape Hill. So, simple Simon made that point. We look for it on Facebook, or you can go to the website capehill.uwi.edu, follow the links and get it on Zoom there as well. Dr. Burrows and Miss Gay, thank you. You know, you guys make studying so fun, which is important because it's not as a drudgery as some would want to think. But here it is, we are in the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts, and we can get the experience of our lifetime, and in doing so chart the way forward as well. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us this morning. Very much success all week long.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome indeed. Dr. Marcia Burrows and Rada Gay. Rada herself a candidate in cultural studies, also a filmmaker. And Dr. Burrows is the Deputy Dean in the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts at the University of the West Indies. Open house all week long, but today we're going online from 2 in the afternoon, and I tell you, you are not going to want to come off, because everything there is about us, by us, for us, with us, and it's going to be long lasting. We'll take a break right here. When we come back, we'll tell you what else is going on in Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
You know, there's some words we say here on the island, and then immediately as a Barbadian, you get exactly what we're talking about. So if I pass you on the street and say, what's going on? What would you think right away? If you're a visitor to the island, I'm sure it's going to cause you a little bit of consternation as to what he's saying. But these two here have fashioned the phrase, and they are working that phrase. Let's introduce you to the people behind the GOn Awards, DJ Simmons and Empress Zinga. Good morning, both of you.
Good morning, Pearson. Good morning, man.
What's going on, man?
With you, Pearson?
I get indeed. I just love the phrase of how you guys have been able to use that Bajan, that part of our Bajan vernacular, and make it live in a very tangible way, because we actually see what's going on and we get to experience what's going on. And so here we are now again, another year, the GOn Awards are on, and I'm told that voting is now complete.
Yes. It concluded midnight on Sunday.
Jeez, all right. I get a chance to cast my vote. So that's my fault. That's all at me, right?
Yeah.
I apologize.
Open for 2 weeks, from the January the 29th. Sorry, January the 31st onto February the 13th. That was when voting was. And we are so excited now because we get to showcase what's going to be happening with the celebration ceremonies. They're going to be on the 26th and 27th of February. They're going to be streamed online, but we're also having a very special invitation-only event for the creatives, because they were planning to get out and see each other and to dress up, and really have a very gala feel. So we're producing a very polished, professional event, and that's going to be on night 2, the 27th, at the Frank Collimer Hall, where you can get to see all the announcements of the awardees, get to see some new art from the artists' live performances, unique live performances and collaborations that you wouldn't expect.
We're doing some mashups.
Yeah, as well as getting to really enjoy the showcase of these artists. It's going to be a really, really wonderful evening. 2 nights on the 26th and the 27th. Hosted by Bell Holder. That's on the 27th. And the first night, which is going to be a stream that is going to be hosted by the one, the only Lord Zen, and Alina, all of his flavor.
Oh, this is sweet. We just came out of a conversation in the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts. And I know a lot of the people who have gone through that are also finding themselves being nominated in the GOn Awards. But it's not just about that person who has had that formal education, but it's for any amateur across this island who's just out there creating work. So let's look at some of the categories that are up for awards this year. What can you share with us?
Yeah.
Well, really and truly, as you said, it really is a digital showcase of the artists, right? Some of the categories that are extremely fitness trainer of the year, nail technician of the year had a lot of input this year. There were some people running some actual campaigns, and DJ of the year and radio personality of the year.
Radio personality is actually this is the first year for it, because we recognize that being a disc jockey or personality are two different things. Sometimes we have to merge the categories together depending on how many people from the public will nominate those people, because we don't nominate and we don't vote. We leave that up to the public, hence why it's the people's choice. And the reason why we did that is for us to really understand the true conversations of what is happening for that year.
What's going on with the year?
Pretty much. So if somebody, for example, I see you're scrolling through all of these categories that are up. So if somebody, for example, fashion designer of the year wins this year, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're saying they are the end all be all. They're the best ever. They just have the biggest impact for that year. But I also want to every year we try to iterate that even though somebody might win the award, which is great and fantastic, please do not forget all these other nominees, even from the short list, whose names were put forward from the public. We tried our best to put in all the links to people's websites, social media.
Yeah,
for the books, you can go to the links and buy books.
It's very important to mention that because we realized that we hit just over 200,000 views on the website during the voting, and a lot of these persons actually from overseas, people that just love to celebrate Barbadian culture. So we make sure to include those links so you can watch the videos, listen to the songs, embrace the photos, and as Singa was saying, even buy some of the merchandise from the people so that they could get some more followers and really engage with their online audiences, because Barbados is small, but we have talent that can go worldwide, and this helps. This is just our way of helping the creatives in Barbados to place themselves on platforms where they can compete on the international stage and be recognized for international accolades.
Yes, we do want to say a very, very big thank you to the National Transformation Initiative, who came on board to help us produce this entire shebang, this fussy thing, I'm trying to get the words, but too early, person. The National Transformation Initiative, as well as the National Cultural Foundation as well, who have had our support for the past 3 years. They've been supporting us. I also have to shout out Aves as well, because they came on board, and even though they're not able this year to do all 3 sections, they wanted to focus in on Fashion Designer of the Year, which is one of the big ones for them, obviously. And they will be giving away some store credit to the awardee, and that is something that we're really looking forward to for those who support us and stuff like that. We really want to showcase that it's not just about the award, but it's also about the support and the highlights within the community.
And for the very first time, we will announce that we're actually partnering with the BTMI. There's going to be something very, very special happening on the Gala Awards night.
You just got the scoop, person.
You have to look out for that.
Thank you.
That's not been said yet.
On the 27th of February, there's going to be something really exciting to be launched out with the Barbados Tourism Marketing Incorporated, and we can't wait to find out what it is. I see one of the categories is the best place to eat pudding ourselves. Listen, when you think of awards, you think of artists and musicians and those kinds of things. And look at it, you're looking for the best place to eat pudding and sauce. This is going to be so fun and so interesting.
It's part of culture.
It's part of our culture.
I'm really happy you mentioned that, because the way how we operate the awards, it really is the people's choice. So we listen to the conversations of people, we enact with all the messages that we get, and that was suggested from the community. It is not our brilliant plan, it was a suggestion, and we just made sure we put things into place. And you see the response as people are submitting the nominations for Best Place to Eat Pudding and Sauce, and they know that that's going to be a very challenging. That was actually a very close category.
Yes, it was.
Yes,
and we do recognize this is the 3rd year of doing these award ceremonies and the whole initiative. We do recognize as well that there are things that need to be built stronger. This is something new to us as well, doing something like this, and we are always open to have discussions about certain things. Like this is a people's choice, and we want it to be represented like that. It's not a DJ and Zinga thing. This is a community-based conversation, and the only way you can know what's going on is to ask some questions.
So true. So it's on the 26th and 27th. So to be able to be a part of it, how can people now really sit in the comfort of their home, or even in the comfort of the Frank Cullimore Hall to be a part of the GOn Awards this year? What's the process?
Well, the home for the GOn Awards is the website gonon.com/awards. You're going to be able to go there and get all the information, and also watch the streams on the 26th and 27th. They'll be streaming also on our YouTube channel, which is GOn, also on our Instagram page at What's Going On. But if you go to gonon.com/, everything is going to be embedded there for you. We make sure we make it easy for you. Of it, as I said, the both nights are going to be streamed, but we're actually able to have got to say a big thanks to NTI once again and the Frank Cullimore Hall for making it possible for these artists to actually come and celebrate their peers, clap, keep noise, and really feel the collaboration. Because when we did this, a lot of relationships were born out of the awards, where we had people like Pauline Bellamy meeting Christian, and they were able to do some stuff together. You had people who were able to get jobs via the awards because some people met us and they were, oh, you sell food, or you do this, or maybe you can cater my, so we're really looking forward to those 2 nights, the 26th and 27th, GOn.com/awards. Right. The nominees are still up there. The showcase is still there. So if you want to go, you want to see all the art, you can still engage with all the nominees. You just can't vote anymore. But we still encourage people to go and check out all of these nominees on our website, GOn.com/awards.
Of course, and that's where we will be on the 26th and 27th for the awards. You'll be there for sure. The big one, the gala, is on the 27th. That's where in person the artists will get together. There's Zinga doing her thing as always, and they'll get to celebrate among themselves. But if you've missed the show on radio, then it's your fault, because these two young people here are heard on 94.7, the best 24/7, every Saturday morning at 11 o'clock for 2 hours. They get to tell us what's going on. Really, you get to hear what's going on too on that show right there on radio as well. Two young, bright, exciting young people here on this island. I commend you as always for the great work that you're doing, staying focused to the culture and ensuring that we celebrate the best of who we are, which is exactly what we do here at the CBC as well. Thank you again, Emperor Zinga and DJ Simmons, the duo behind the GOn Awards, and much success with this year's awards. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. Very welcome indeed. So don't forget, folks, you go to the website, GON.com, and you can watch it in the comfort of your home. You can see it on their YouTube channel as well. It's going to be on the 26th and 27th of February. And that's exactly where we will be when we all sit and we'll be awarding and saluting and really applauding our favorite nominee who would have achieved the award in the respective categories. Voting is complete. But now it's for the big show at the end of the month. We'll remind you as the days unfold. Speaking of reminding, we'll take a break right here, and then we'll come back and remind you of what's big in the news today.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Let's take a look at the news again. Here's Shane Seeley.
Here's your headline news for this Tuesday, February the 15th. Fresh efforts on the cards to breathe new life into the local film industry, with calls from government for a revolving film fund to help finance the push for more appealing local content is one of the ideas conceptualized by the new president of the Barbados Film and Video Association, Rivelino Simmons, to move the industry in the right direction. He believes this, along with more funding for marketing, will generate the interest and sponsorship required for the sector here to be appealing across the world.
It'd be great if government comes aboard and we do things like a film fund where there's a revolving film fund that you could tap into, then to get money out to make your product and then move it to market, or even have, you know, a fund there to help with marketing. But I believe we have to be stronger together and develop strong products and help each other to lift up the next person and bring them along. Because the thing is, people always want new content. Just because I produced something last week, it doesn't mean it stopped. There's always a demand for content. Content is king, and we have to understand that.
Speaking exclusively to the Morning Report, the new BFVA president dismissed the notion that the internet is the only way to make money in the sector now. He explains partnerships are critical.
There's limited ways you can make revenue online. However, see, partnerships with CBC, that's key, because that's where you develop your skill. That's where you develop your first TV program. That's where I developed mine. Is putting content on Channel 8, and you will be surprised. If you produce good local content, you will get sponsors. Show after show, you know, from game shows to Rumble to whatever. Right now, Caribbean Weekend Review is all content. We've moved to CBC, and it helped us to grow. We have to have a strong local industry, or we have no industry. We cannot move CBC out of the equation.
Another grim milestone for Barbados. The death toll from COVID-19 has now reached 300. The latest victim is an 80-year-old woman who died yesterday at the Harrison Point isolation facility. She was vaccinated. Meanwhile, a total of 271 people, 121 males and 150 females, tested positive for COVID-19 on Sunday. That's from the 1,331 tests conducted by the Best dos Santos Public Health Laboratory. Those new cases comprised 62 youngsters under the age of 18. There were 148 people in isolation facilities, while 5,951 people were in home isolation. As at February 13th, the virus had claimed 299 lives and added to that the death of the 80-year-old woman. Under the National Vaccination Program for COVID-19, the total number of people with at least one dose is 159,507, while 148,406 people are fully vaccinated. Barbados and Guyana are continuing their bilateral talks as leaders seek to deepen cooperation on several levels, including food and nutrition security. Prime Minister Mia Moore-Motley has led a 14-member delegation to the South American territory. Speaking on Guyana's NCN, Ms. Motley said she's looking forward to the new areas of partnership.
For us, you use the word vast. Vast is probably still an understatement when it is with reference to other small states in the Caribbean, because I don't think that our people in the rest of the Caribbean region understand and appreciate the vastness of this great nation. And it is for that reason, therefore, that I welcome the opportunity over the next few days to participate in meetings as well as in visits to see where the actual projects can be.
And Guyana's President, Dr. Irfan Ali, has pledged his government's commitment to working with Barbados.
I want to let you know that here in Guyana, led by myself as President, the Cabinet, and the people of this country, we admire greatly your leadership. We believe strongly in your commitment to regional integration, and we will work with you every single day in our journey ahead together to ensure that the goals that we are setting can be realized and the people of this region can be uplifted.
And that's it for this edition of your Headline News. I'm Shane Seeley. Back to you, Pearson.
Shane, thank you. We'll take a break here. When we come back, we'll share with you our good decision of the day.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Time now for today's good decision of the day as we continue to share with you daily habits for the ultra successful. And is that you? Here's today's tip: reading, self-development and business books. Through reading, you can learn from the people who have walked the path before you. You can learn from their mistakes without having to make them yourself and shortcut the process towards achieving your goals. Reading every day, you gain knowledge. So by reading every day, you gain knowledge. Take up a book and start reading today! Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation mark. So read every day reading. By doing so, you're gaining knowledge every day. So we encourage you, if you haven't already done so, to engage in reading some self-development and business books, and you'll find that you will shortcut the process of mistakes and achieving your goals as well. So read every day, gain the knowledge. So today, take up a book and start to read. That, we hope, is for you a good decision of the day. We'll take a break here. When we come back, we'll meet up with our pediatrician as we take a look at injuries during sports and play. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Time for us now to hook up with our pediatrician, our favorite pediatrician, Dr. Gillian Birchwood. Dr. Birchwood, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I am doing well today. Hey, look at the colors. As fate would have it, great minds think alike.
There you go. We
There
must have
you
been
go.
conferring beforehand.
Now listen, as things will happen, children love to play, they love to jump around, they love to do all of these things. They're hugely competitive as well. And when that happens, you know, we hold our hearts in our hands because there's a likelihood of sprain, fracture, injury, concussion, a whole host of things. So panic sets in. This is where we turn to you, Dr. Birchwood. What do we do?
I'm very accustomed to panicking parents, but I do
Yes.
understand being one myself. But you know, as you said, children don't do anything halfway. They really throw their all into it. They're going to be 100% into whatever it is, whether they're playing or doing sports. And so they are definitely prone to having injuries. You know, anybody who is around children, who has children, you only have to look at their legs to see how banged up their legs often are, or their arms, because they're busy rolling around and getting into trouble. But that's how they discover and they grow. But sometimes they can have more serious injuries, And if they do, then you as a parent should know what to look out for. Injuries in children can be a bit different from in adults because they are still growing. And so there are parts of their bones called the growth plates. When our children are growing, their bones are obviously growing and they are growing from the growth plate. And so injuries in children can involve the growth plate, and then that can have different implications.
What are the different implications? If I affect the growth plate, does it stunt my growth?
It can in severe cases. So for example, if a child has a fracture in the growth plate and it isn't recognized or it isn't appropriately treated, then that growth plate may fail to grow, and you may have sort of discordant growth. So one leg could be longer than the other. So it's actually something that can have significant implications for children.
You know, as children run around and play, I remember so many times and you wring your ankle, you know, because you stepped on something and it twisted your foot, and you think, oh my goodness, you hop, 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 but you continue, not realizing you may have caused a sprain. And what's the danger there?
Right. So there are sprains and there are strains. So when you've injured your muscle, we call that a strain, a muscle strain. And you know, for example, you know, if you haven't done anything much for the last few months and you suddenly decide to go out to the gym and you do a full class, you might end up with quite a bit of soreness and discomfort. Yes. So that's muscle strain. But a sprain involves the ligaments. Those are the cords that anchor the muscles to the bones. And so as you said, if you're running around, for example, in a pasture and there's a little hole and you step in it and you twist your ankle, the ligaments that stabilize your ankle, the cords that anchor the muscles to the bone, can become stretched and they can tear. And you can end up with swelling in the area. You know, you can see bruising sometimes if blood vessels are involved, and you may have some laxity in that joint or be unable to use that joint. So it can commonly happen in the ankles. It can also happen in the knees, particularly if children play certain sports, it's more likely to happen in the knees. We've all heard about ACL tears in, you know, professional athletes. They happen in children as well. If they're playing sports where there's twisting motions going to be involved, they can destabilize the ligaments in the knees and develop ACL tears. And so you get the characteristic swelling, pain, bruising, and discomfort. That means you're going to be hobbling for a few days.
You got that
and you
right.
have to be very careful.
Yes.
Yeah.
But sometimes we can misread that and we think, you know, let's just apply some ice. You keep your foot up, keep it elevated, and it should go away because that's what we've done for centuries. Grease it down with some Bengay's balsam, all of those kinds of things. But we might misread it and it might very well be a fracture. How do we determine the difference between the normal sprain that will subside or the fracture?
Yes. You know, children really, they love to be moving. And so they will be much more likely to be running around or moving the limb that has a fracture in it than an adult. And the other difference with children compared to adults is with adults, if they get an injury to a bone and they get a fracture, it's going to snap.
Yes.
But with children, their bones are still relatively soft. And so that bone may buckle or bend and you may not get that full snap. And so although they're having pain, they will hobble along and bear with it because they just want to play. They want to be in that sport. They want to run around with their friends. And so quite often children will come and present to a doctor several days after they've actually had the fracture because they will hobble along on it. But the key is that if you have a fracture, it's not going to improve. The pain and discomfort are not going to improve with what you described, which in medicine we call RICE, which is rest, ice, compress, and elevate the injured area. If you have a muscle sprain or you have a ligamental strain, there will often be some improvement with that RICE. But if you have a fracture, it's definitely not going to improve. But also if you have a severe ligamental strain, it may not improve. So in situations like that where it's intensely painful, or you see your child refusing to use that limb, then that means they need to go to the doctor. I've had a 2-year-old come in. a few days later because they were holding their arm to their side but
Yes.
using the other hand to play. So, they may not complain in the way that adults do.
2-year-old with a fracture. My goodness.
Yes. Yes.
I'd hit panic mode, boom, one time, straight to the doctor, let's just fix this. And that's the whole point. The sooner you intervene, the greater the result, really. Because sometimes you can grow with a deformity, not even knowing that that's what's happening as the bone heals. And I'll use me as an example again. Hate to use myself. I remember once running, and I grated this part of this arm. And as a consequence, to protect it, I held it like this for a long while. Then I realized the flesh here was beginning to grow into the other one. So, not aware that all the while I was creating a new pattern in my ignorance. And sometimes as parents, we need to be mindful of that as well. So the earlier we get a medical intervention, the sooner we can get back to normal in a situation like that, right? Good.
Yes. Yes.
So I just marked myself again. Now, there are things I see the boys do, for instance. They love to flip. I sit with my heart in my hand because a couple of things I fear: concussion, breaking a bone, the neck, the injury to the back. But children play. And what do you do? How do you guard in a situation like that so you don't have those kinds of things happen, be it a sprain, fracture, or concussion?
All of those things are preventable. So, when children are playing, it's a little bit more difficult because then as a parent, you're going to be, you don't want to be policing them every second. But if you do see them engaging in dangerous activities, which especially little boys are very prone to do, then you're going to want to step in. And if the child is old enough, you're going to want to explain why it's really not a good idea. I do agree with you that flipping is not a good idea, but little boys just love to do these things. But yes, at worst, you could land on your head and you could have a concussion, or worse, you could injure a bone in your neck. And something like a concussion is something that parents and coaches and the players themselves sometimes take for granted, but it actually can be quite serious if a child develops a concussion. So it's really important to look out for signs and symptoms of a concussion as well. That can happen during the course of both play and also on the field. So prevention is key. If you are in a high-risk sport, for example, like to go on a skateboard, wear protective gear like a helmet. If you're in cricket, you're going to want to make sure you wear that helmet. You don't want that ball coming and hitting you in the head. If you are playing a sport like basketball or volleyball or netball that involves a lot of jumping, relatively hard surface, you're going to want to make sure that you have the appropriate footwear to avoid the kind of injuries that can go along with it. So there are sport-specific preventative measures that you can have. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to have an injury, although some degree of banging up is going to happen once you're involved in play or in a sport. It's just part of childhood.
It is just part of childhood. So how do I detect that there has been a concussion? Is it a headache that says red flag, or is it something else?
So a concussion is actually a mild form of a traumatic brain injury. Your brain has been injured, and I think that a lot of people don't really think about it in that way, but that's exactly what it is. And so a child who has had a concussion would usually have hit their head, or, for example, if you're playing football, you head that ball in the wrong way, or you bang heads with someone else. A child who's running around will fall down and hit their head on something. Those are typical mechanisms that you will see for a child who develops a concussion. And after they've had that injury, you may notice that they look dazed and confused. They may not remember what happened to them either leading up to the injury or immediately after. They may have a headache. A young child may be very irritable and not express to you that they have a headache. They may have nausea and vomiting. All of those are signs that your child may have a concussion. And if they're playing a sport, they immediately need to be pulled off the field, immediately, because you need to have a testing done. It can be done on the sidelines by coaches who know what to do, or by your child's doctor, to see how injured that brain really is, because there's certain tests that are going to let you know how injured that brain is. And how you manage the concussion afterward is going to be very, very important. If you have a concussion, you're more prone to getting a second time. And if you have another concussion before you have healed from the first one, we call that second syndrome. And a child who has had a concussion before they've healed from the first one can actually end up, but not always, can actually end up with permanent brain damage. So concussions are not to be taken lightly, because many times children are encouraged, oh, you just got buzzed, shake it off and get back on the field. Absolutely not. They need to be checked, and they need to be cleared after a significant period of time to go back out to play.
You're going to get a bit of bruising. You get hit in your head, bump appears, bruising, but that doesn't necessarily equate to concussion, does it?
No, fortunately not. You get what they call, the goofies when you hit your head. I've learned my terms in Barbados, And so, you get all the bruising and the black and blues. But if you have a child who, has absolutely no symptoms afterwards, they bang their head, they get up, they're running around, they're not having a headache, they haven't vomited more than once, they seem to be themselves, then you are very unlikely to have a child who has a concussion. But if you do notice the signs and symptoms, then your doctor is likely to recommend that you have to have complete rest. And that includes brain rest. So you're not to go to school, you're not to engage in schoolwork, you're not to be on social media or watching TV for at least a couple of days afterward. And when I give this advice to teenagers, they usually look like they're going to die.
That's right,
but
torture.
It's really important to rest that brain, because you've had a brain injury. Yes.
Wow, so many things that one has to be so mindful of as a parent and caregiver, because it's going to happen. You wish you could protect them from it, but it's to be able to identify when it does occur what one should do, because it's almost inevitable. Child, play, injury. That equation works in life. Plus, right the way through. It's going to happen. So when it happens, just head to your pediatrician, get further advice indeed, and let's see if we can get this resolved as quickly as possible. She's stuck, because I cannot understand why she's looking at me like that all the time. But it seems as if we're having a bit of a challenge there with keeping that continuity with Dr. Birchwood, but we want to thank her immensely for joining with us. There you are again. There you are.
I disappeared for a moment.
I was like, why is she looking at me like that?
It was a quick disappearing, reappearing trick.
That's all right. So, but all of those things, we can't completely prevent them from every injury, but we can teach our children how to protect themselves, and we ourselves can be mindful of what to do should injury occur. That's what's absolutely critical here.
Yes, absolutely. And don't underestimate a concussion. Make sure that you seek medical advice, and do make sure that you do everything you can to protect your child from injuries with the correct gear. That's really key.
Indeed. Yes. Dr. Birchwood, as always, thank you so very much. I know you're a very busy woman. You're everywhere now. That is good. That is really good, because your expertise is sought, and because you're so good. Thank you so very much for joining us again this morning. We're looking forward to next week, God Spare Life. Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Have a good day.
You do too.
Okay,
thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Right. Morning Barbados continues right after this. So here we are with Cruel Odell. Agent Sharita, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, sir.
Look how she answered me. Listen, the production crew got ahead of me because that's where I wanted to start today. What's next for Cruel Odell? I just love the series. And folks, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to get onto her social media because it is funny to no end. It is really funny, a really funny approach to what you do. So I can't wait for the next series.
I have to keep it light. I have some great creative ideas brewing in this head, so I can't wait to share with you.
I can't wait. Indeed, it's a really good series, so look out for her on social media. Now today, you know, with so many housing areas popping up all over the place, these subdivisions, these developments all over the place, and everybody's looking for somewhere to lay their head, to own their little piece of the rock. But there are things that we need to be mindful of when we make a decision to go into a new subdivision. So where do we start in trying to get it right?
All right. Well, first of all, we're going back to that proverbial adage, location. Yes. No matter how cheap an area might be, no matter how attractive the land is, you know, is your commute to work now going to be 90 minutes because you get a deal at $5 a square foot?
Yes.
Or, you know, will you be able to commute easily between friends, family, and your activity? So the location has to be right. You want it close to amenities. That's, you know, the comforts of life are what help you to live at home peacefully when you know you can get something from the supermarket, which is just 5 to 10 minutes away, or you don't have to veer off 20 minutes to go to a gas station. So those things are important in deciding where you want to live first off.
Right. So location. Is it central to everything, or is it in some rural area where it's away from everything? And then you make a decision that I want to be in that particular subdivision. But there are other elements to the whole thing, because in selecting my plot, you know, whether I want to be near to the main road or I want to be further inland, how do we go about selecting our plot? What's your recommendation?
Well, always think first off, drive through, get a feel of the neighborhood that is coming. Do you like privacy? Do you want to be in a little enclave at the back of the neighborhood? I know people who desire on purpose to live in the last row of the neighborhood. They're not seeing all the headlights from the cars. They're not hearing all the noise, that type of thing. Some people want to be close to the entrance because as often as they need to pop home, they don't want to be driving through a maze of roads. But things that people don't think about are, is your plot located anywhere close to one of those drainage grills?
Yes.
Now, it might not seem like anything big, but after 3 years, when that grill makes a loud noise every time somebody drives over it, you start to feel as if you're in a living nightmare. You know, these are things that people don't think about at first. Also, you have picked a plot next to the green space because it gives you the illusion that your land is more than it really is. And that green space is beautifully manicured when you are buying into the development. But who's going to be maintaining it?
Yes.
Is it just going to be bush after time? And, you know, could it be a place to hold predators and rats? And so you have to think out these things. What sometimes looks very sexy when you are about to buy in, how will it be after 3, 5, or 10 years? So you got to think that out.
Yeah, you're right. And whether it's a corner lot or another one of those other lots, because some people just don't like to live on the corner. You don't mind living elsewhere, but that corner lot in itself can either limit or enhance your building possibilities.
Yes.
So,
now, the next thing too, even in terms of the lot, you want to make sure that if you know, suppose that development is offering you a house and land package, the biggest area in which to focus the majority of your spend are certain details that you will not be able to change over time. Meaning, if you know you absolutely want 3 bedrooms, go for it. If you know you want a larger footprint in the living area, go for it. If you want the size of the house to be a particular size, pursue that, because remember, those elements can't change, but you can change cabinetry and carpeting and wall paint and so forth over time. But you want to make sure that the footprint is, you really want to keep you happy from the get-go.
Yeah, because you're hemmed in by your agreement. So if it says it must be this size, it must be this size. You can't now go and decide, I want to really put on extra bedrooms, and then you encroach on someone else's property next door. So you have to be very careful on that footprint that you're talking about. But you know, the house design is where we're talking about too, where that is, because if the development says you can only go so high, you can only go so high. If not, you're breaking the covenant.
Yes, yes. That is essential in a neighborhood. Now remember that covenants, I don't want to say they trump town planning regulations, but let's say town planning regulations might say no cats, no dogs, no business in this particular area, but your covenants go a step further in the sense that they might tell you no properties over X height, no guard walls to the front. You can only use fencing from the side of your house to the rear. No line drying at the back. You can only have a washer and dryer. So covenants are the aspects of the agreement that you want to pay attention to, because you might be loving the neighborhood, but it might be requiring some things of you that you were not expecting at all. And I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen people commit and then they're like, wait, I can't hang my clothes on the line? What?
You're right. And that's why we need to pay close attention to what we sign off on. Knowing what it is that we're getting involved in will help making living in the new division so much more interesting. So pay attention to the fine print, have that discussion, take it away, the agreement, and look it over. Have someone else with another pair of eyes look it over with you and for you. How much of knowing who the developer is important?
Ooh, that is critical. What happens when you research John Brown and realize, wait, he's a man that carry away money from somebody from the last development and then finish the two houses? Yes. You need to do some research on who is the developer of this project. What is their track record? What have they built before? Go and check out any areas in which they have, would have had house and land packages, and you can see the properties still standing after 10 years. Ask questions. Pay attention to things like the payment plan, stage payments, and so forth. And of course, make sure you have an attorney to pay attention to the fine details. Even things like warranties for certain things, are there provisions in place for warranties for external things? Plumbing, probably not so for such a long period, but is there a warranty for X thing? Get your attorney to pay attention to those fine details.
Yeah, you're right, because sometimes you move into a new development and within a relatively short space of time, you're seeing cracks. You didn't know that was going to happen because you did not yourself do that test of the ground to ensure its stability and a whole host of things. And you need to be able to know to whom you turn for recourse. So getting to know the work and who your developer is really aids in your assistance when it comes to getting some kind of recourse.
Correct. And even as regards that, yes, you're putting a lot of weight on the developer, but don't be afraid to ask permission to, can I do test holes on this plot? Yes, all the lots look as if they're, the land is the what do you call it? The foundation might be close to the surface, but your lot might be the one lot that happened to be close to a cave underneath. Don't be afraid to do test holes to check the integrity of the land, because you might not have much recourse thereafter. I remember driving into a subdivision. One day it was raining. I had to show a property, and I was mortified to see a house at the bottom of the hill underwater. There was 3 feet of water, and she would have bought into that division thinking, "Ooh, I got a nice house towards the rear in a cul-de-sac," but would have never thought about things like flooding, drainage. Those types of things. So you have to be really paying attention to a lot.
Road network, the layout of the road, because that's also a consideration. A lot of people don't give attention to that, the space for parking, that kind of thing. Let's talk about how important it is to also look at the plan very carefully and see the space around you, the road network, the carriageway, so that you're able to move in and out in comfort.
Case in point, there is one development that I'm not going to pelt under the bus. All I will say is that every time I've gone to show the same house, I've been lost for about 10 minutes. The maze up inside that development Listen, look at, especially if it's a very large development,
Yes.
look at the roads. You really want to be taking 6 turns and 2 straight roads to get to your, you really want to do that? Listen, these things enhance or defeat your comfort level altogether.
Yeah, you're right. It can be so frustrating. Not just, I mean, and imagine inviting someone over, you have to give all of those directions and everyone gets totally confused. Totally confused.
You gotta go and meet them at different roads.
And leave them in. You're quite right. You know, so it's things like those where trees grow generally, because they may have cut down all the trees and you weren't even aware that that is really a forest that you found yourself in, and now they're popping up all over the place again. Things like those are absolutely critical.
And I have been to a property. It looks cute initially too. Some people purposely buy a plot with a tree thinking, oh, this is lovely, it adds to the shade. Every morning they have to get up and rake leaves.
Ooh.
Every morning. Every morning. It's like walking around with a cross on their back every morning, and they could not have foreseen that.
Walking around with a cross on your back. I love it. But you know, we also get really cute too. We want to be near to the river, the little ravine, the gully, in other words. And you know, not realizing that there will come the time when it gets all heavy with rain, and you're going to find yourself now battling something else.
Mosquitoes!
Correct. Correct.
People don't think about that. I know about one gated community. They have a pond, a beautiful pond.
Yes.
Guess what? What happens when that pond isn't acting right? Huh? Odors.
Correct.
Mosquitoes. So always think ahead as to all that can possibly go wrong based on where you want to position your house.
Yeah, but there are lots of things that are happening with these new developments, you know, where you have the central mail area. So, you know, where you may have been accustomed to mail coming directly to your door. No, you don't have a mailbox. Or the garbage collection is a little different because the garbage trucks are not able to drive right up to your door. You have to deposit in a particular... So all of those things, you have to be mindful of it because your life may change. The way you did it will probably be required to change as a consequence of moving into one of the new subdivisions.
Correct. So that is essential. Remember, it is about your life, your lifestyle. Your home has to be your retreat. So check all these things up, down, left, right, and center. Even find out what water pressure is like in the area.
Yes.
Are there frequent water outages? Ask questions. Don't be afraid to roll up on neighbors and ask, what really is going on in this area though? Tell me everything.
You know, somebody's watching and saying, geez, oh, brother, that's so much work, no, Sharita. I never thought I had to put in all that work to go and live someplace. What do you say to that?
You want to live happy or not? Huh? For the 400,000 you putting out, do you want to live all the days of your life happily? You're welcome.
But this is also where a person like yourself as an agent would come into play, because you're going to help me. Won't you help me find, perhaps having had a discussion with me, the best place that I can really rest my head so I can really want to live there?
I'll give you that guidance, and it'll be rough. I speak the truth in love.
Amen. That's what's important. Speak the truth in love, because it helps me make a more sound decision. You know, I don't want you to sugarcoat it for me, because in doing that, you're just fooling me. So tell me straight out as it is, I'll make the decision that is required of me to make. So sometimes financing, let's look at that too. There's some developments that will come with their own finance options, or you may want instead to take on your own financing of your property. How do I approach that discussion with the developer?
Well, usually developers do try to have a financier on board, simply because it might help expedite the process. The financier is familiar with the development and the intricacies of it and the legal parameters of it, etc. So you might, things might speed up a little bit, but I'll go back to this. In these times, shop around. Shop around, and folks, don't be afraid to negotiate. I can tell you this, as much as we think the financial institutions lord over us, they want your money. Okay, so at the end of the day, don't be afraid to say, listen, I don't want to pay that percentage interest rate, but I want to pay this. Go and check with your authorities. The worst they could do is say no.
Yes.
But suppose they say, okay, we will adjust to 4%, just, okay, at least for the first 3 years and then go back up to, but try, shop around and do not be afraid to ask questions and make demands and see how they respond.
Yeah. So in shopping around again, location, 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 you can take the time and browse and see where else perhaps might meet your particular need. Don't just take the first option that you see, or because your friend lives there, that you want to be near to your friend, those kinds of things, because you may want a large family, it might not be the place for you. You may want to have a space where your children are free to run around, and because you're grown accustomed to children running and playing in the road, this might not be the place for you to be able to do so. So a whole host of things about your lifestyle has to be taken into account when you're deciding where to live. The new subdivision might not be for you. But Sharita, there are some people who figure a new house gone up, I want to be one of them to live in there because it's new. I want to move from this old place to this new place. And you're just hopping about the place and you run into some problems. What do you say to that person who just likes it because it's new?
New becomes old. That's all I have to say.
You're on the ball. I thought it was tricking you. You're on the ball today. At some point, new will become old. And what are you going to do? What are you going to run again? Is this the way you really want to live? Like a rolling stone, gathering no moss, literally?
Lifestyle trumps everything. Always think about what makes your lifestyle comfortable, and then you fit the property into that. I always tell people, do not buy stuff because the price is right. Yes, that is a factor, but lifestyle above everything else. If you choose to stay here for the rest of your life, does it make you fuzzy-wuzzy driving up in here? After you get involved in a cussle at the supermarket, does it feel like a retreat to run to? Those things are essential.
Oh, Agent Sharita, I love it. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. But those are a number of things, folks. If you're looking at the new subdivision that you need to consider indeed, and Agent Sharita is one you can call to talk to, give some guidance to 233-8888, 233-8888. You got that? 233-8888. Barbados Real Estate 246 on social. Good morning. This is very important information. Thanks. That's from Suzette Foss. She's saying that to you indeed, as all of us. Love Sharita. Avril Belgrave is saying on social media as well. They look forward to Tuesday mornings with you indeed, and we thank you all. Remember, call 233-8888 or Barbados Real Estate 246 on social media, and you'll find her there as well. Again, should it be God's will, we'll see you again next Tuesday. Agent Sharita, thank you. Over and out.
Take care.
Likewise. Morning Barbados continues right after this. We're down to 9 minutes now to go to 8 o'clock right here on Morning Barbados. It's Tuesday morning. I stand for just one reason here. These guys are so lucky they get me to stand up. Good morning to you, Mr. Caliphate 246, Mr. Avatar Alchemist. Good morning.
Good morning, Pearson. I'm happy that we can get you to, come on, stand up, shake a leg,
active, man.
maybe do a backflip or two this morning.
No, shake a leg for sure.
Right, so we get straight into it. This morning, we continuing about kids. We're happy that the kids are going back into school next week. They're going to get a social interaction. So we're going to talk about some habits that you can, maybe change or add to your kids' routine in terms of exercise.
Right.
And we still, you're still cognizant of the fact that some of them consume too many soft drinks and some of them eat too many processed foods, and we cannot call them by their names, but they like the nuggets and the thing and stuff like that. Which that kind of stuff is fine to indulge in sometimes, but you obviously want to help them to create healthier habits along the way, right? But this time, Chad can take the role to talk about that one initially.
Let's go, Chad.
He threw me into the deep end. Habits. Like Dawn was saying, I think the younger you start somebody with anything and they're able to see the benefits of it, the easier it will be to carry into their adult life. While you have the children under your care, under your supervision, even if it's something that you're unable to maintain, do your best to, lead by example, one, but do your best to give these children structure. And to implement exercise as a lifestyle habit rather than an extra. So they're already active, they already want to run around, you want to tie them out throughout the day. So being that they're not at school, try and arrange maybe with other people their age to meet up and play a little game. A lot of young people favor a sport. So organizing is going to be the next step, right? Whether it's just in your household or as a collective, but get these kids active. I would say invest in coaching as well, so they have structure to their trainer. He does a great class for kids, and they're going to learn how to warm up. We got to plug my friend, right? They're going to warm up, they're going to do the main work, and they're going to cool down. So again, it's a habit within a habit. You now know how to structure a workout so that what you're doing is efficient and it's not damaging and it's sustainable. And I feel that's a big thing in terms of habits.
So in other words, with your child, don't limit them from getting involved in activity, physical activity.
100%.
We figure, okay, school is done, you come home, you head straight to your homework, get to bed because tomorrow it starts all over again. Build the time in for physical activity and encourage them.
So that by the time they get to that age, it's already programmed, so they know, okay, well, I get my hour in or I get my 45 minutes in, and we're creatures of habit. So the more that you do something and you're not thinking about it anymore. He made an excellent point where we were talking about parents leading by example. Now, that is a huge thing for me in terms of parents, for instance, we launched the outdoor acro classes on Saturday, and some of the parents were super involved. And I love that, because you have to try to be physically involved. That's an opportunity for you to connect with your child and understand what they're going through. And you can have a little fun with it and develop that relationship. But as well as leading by example. So it's hard to tell your child, well, you need to eat your vegetables, and then you as an adult, you're not eating your vegetables.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I want you to get them and do 50 jumping jacks and stuff like that. Go to your player sports, blah, 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 but you're sitting on the entire day watching TV because you're tired. And we do understand there are stark differences between an adult life and a child's life, but there's always perspective. There are things that a child is going to go through that adult is not going to go through. There are things that adult is going to go through that child is not going to go through. The idea is to completely understand and have an open mind where it's concerned, and you are the leader of your household, leader of your family. Then you gotta lead by example.
And it's not that difficult. Hear me, old me. You do as much as you possibly can.
Correct.
I think the child understands, that I can only go so far. When we're running around the house, there's only so many laps I can do. You do the rest. That kind of thing. But the more you are engaged in play, exercise, the greater it is for that child and that synergy.
I can add something to that. I feel like what you're saying about making it specific to each child is important as well, because then you don't want it to become a battle between physical exercise and doing the homework, like you say, when they come home, right? So treat the child like an individual. If you see that they gain more gratification from their studies, it seems like maybe what they will go into, implement wellness and fitness in a way that complements their life. If they're at desks for a long time, they should know lower back exercises, how to mobilize their hips before they're in pain. So we're now matching it. Whereas if you have an athlete, that boy got to run. Because we got things, we got stuff to do. So make it specific to them, and they're going to feel more when anything feels personalized, you're going to invest more into it, spend more time and put my effort into it as well.
When it makes sense. When it just makes sense.
So we can jot those 4 things down for you guys. So lead by example, add structure, obviously make it fun, and personalize it for your child. So just to wrap that all up in a ball, I know parents get upset when kids pick up things and they drop things. It is literally your job to expose them to as many things as possible. I know it can be expensive, but they are, just like how we're figuring out in life, they are most definitely trying to figure out in life. So if they pick up cricket this year and they drop that, I mean, you try to implement something to say, okay, well, we may not be able to do this the following turn because we got to gather some money, but it's your job to try to figure out, what are they into, what stimulates them most. So now, right.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen. So we were talking about the Accra class that we launched on Saturday. I'm extremely happy with the turnout. Thank you parents for coming and bringing your kids to have fun. The class will, after these eight weeks, the class will be divided into 2 different classes. One is tricking and parkour, and the other one is acro. So the difference between these 2 is that tricking is a little more martial arts based, and parkour is more obstacle course based. So you're diving over things, jumping over stuff. Acro also has a tumbling element, but it is related a little bit more to balances.
Right. Okay.
Right, which you would have walked in.
He threw me in the deep end. I want to see.
John has no prior experience. We're gonna try this one.
We have 2 minutes, gentlemen.
Acrobat or anything like that. This one is super simple. You would have seen a lot of Shaggy Bears doing this.
Yeah.
So it's like a counterbalance. Forgive me for my shaking. Right?
That's all right.
So you're gonna this is one that you can try with your family at home. You're gonna keep your feet underneath my armpits really close. He's gonna sit back, right? And as a beginner, usually you don't tap the floor, but I'm gonna tap the floor in this case. Child is gonna lean back, take all his weight up. I'm gonna raise my hips and raise up.
Whoa, you strong boy.
Head up. Head up. And I go, right there. And then I lean back. And then up.
Chad, how much do you weigh?
190 pounds.
You're able to lift all of that?
Yeah. We can squat that. That's baby weight. That's baby weight. 35 and 193.
I am impressed.
Brown tell us in the back, that's baby weight.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Not leaning that. So yeah, guys, especially when it comes to things like acro, I know there's a mindset to parents where they go like, no, you're gonna break it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But expose the children, see the talent. You can send them to us, send them to Flip Gym. Let them get exposed to it because you do not know. You may have the next Simone Biles. You may have the next Yabby Douglas. You do not know.
Tap into it.
He has some classes coming up later on. You can let him touch on that.
A little more for adults though. Segue away from the kids. I'm coming up with something for kids, but for adults for now who want to get into bodyweight movement, covers mobility, covers strength, covers stability, coordination. Just a different way to expose yourself to fitness. Bodyweight classes start in March at Beyond Limits. If you have me on Instagram, it's avatar_alchemist. Send me a DM and I'll send you the details. That was everything.
Nice. Yep. Mr. Caliphate?
But I think he's going to drop it me every time you know
he's there. Okay, Caliphate246.
Caliphate246 at gmail.com. Caliphate246 on Instagram. And that's clay.woods. Clay.woods, yeah. Clay.woods, CLE.WOODS, the fittest entertainer. You can find me there if you have any questions about classes or you just want to see some really extreme exercise. I feel like I'll see some videos next week.
We can't wait to see these videos next week, but we gotta go. Thanks guys as always for joining us, and thanks to all of you for joining us as well. We do look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. I gotta wrap it up here. Catch you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning.